aspirants, I'm Inkar from Inkar IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the 17th February current affairs, the topic taken from the Delhi edition. The topic is President Rule. This topic comes under our GS2 Indian Constitution, historical underpinning, evolution, feature amendments, significant provision and basic structure. In this topic we are going to discuss about what is the meaning of President Rule, what is the constitutional provision related to the President Rule, what are the grounds of imposition that on President Rule, parliamentary approval for President Rule, duration of the President Rule, revocation of President Rule, and what are the consequences of the President Rule, and what are the effects of President Rule on state executive, state legislature, and also state judiciary, and what are the misuse of the President Rule, what are the scope of judicial reviews under the President Rule, what are the significance of President Rule, what are the criticism of President Rule, what are major recommendations that regarding the Article 356. These are the topic we are going to discuss today. First of all, why it is in the news. In February 13, that is 4 days after the Manipur Chief Minister, that is N. Byron Singh, that resignation, the Union government announced the President Rule that has been implemented in the violence its state. First of all, the meaning of President Rule. The President Rule, Article 356 is also known for the governance rule, referred to a period when its constitutional machinery in a state has failed and the state government is unable to function in accordance with the provision of the constitution. It is a period when the autonomy of the state government temporarily suspended and the central government assumes that direct control over the state administration. The President Rule is also known for the constitutional emergency and also state emergency. However, Indian Constitution does not use the word emergency, so the imposition of the President Rule empowers the central government to suspend the state legislature and govern the state through the office of the governor. The centralization of the authority is intended to restore the constitutional order to ensure the continuity of the governance and protect the interests of the citizen. Also regulate the state machinery is unable to function. First of all, there is a many provision related to the President Rule. Article 355 and Article 357 in part of 18 and Article 365 in part of 19 of our Indian Constitution, which is related to the President Rule. Article 355, that is a duty of union to protect the state against the external aggression and also the internal disturbance. And also Article 356, that provision will give the failure of the constitutional machinery in state. And Article 357, which exercise the legislative power under the proclamation issued under Article 356. And also there is a Article 365, which effect of failure to comply with or to give effect to or direction given by the union. So these are the four provisions given by our Indian Constitution, and also there are many grounds of imposition. First of all, as per the Article 355, the Indian Constitution imposes the duty on the center to protect every state against the external aggression or internal disturbance and to ensure that the government every state is carried on accordance with the provision of the Indian Constitution. So it is a duty that the performance of which center takes over the government of a state under the Article 356 in case of failure of the constitutional machinery. So the President Rule can be proclaimed under Article 356 under two grounds, 356 and 365. So Article 356 mainly, as per the Article 356 Indian Constitution, the President can proclaim the President Rule in a state if she has satisfied that a situation has arisen which government of a state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provision of Indian Constitution. The President can act either on a report of a governor of the state or even without the governor's report. And also Article 365, which states that the Indian Constitution, that is whenever a state fails to comply with the given effect of the direction from the central government, so the lawful for the President to hold the situation and arisen in which the government, the state cannot be carried on its accordance with the provision of the Indian Constitution. There is a parliamentary approval is required. First of all, there is a proclamation imposing the President Rule must be improved by both the House of the Parliament when 2 months from the date of the issue. And also there's a proclamation, the President rule issued a time, that is a Lok Sabha has to be dissolved or the dissolution of the Lok Sabha takes place during the period of the 2 months without approving the proclamation, then the proclamation serves until 30 days from the first sitting of the newly constituted Lok Sabha, that provided the Rajya Sabha approves in the meantime. So this is the parliamentary approval of the president. And also, what is the duration of the president rule? It is approved by both the House of the Parliament. The president rule continues to the period of only 6 months. The president rule can be imposed for a maximum of 3 years when the approval of the parliament every 6 months need to be approved. It means that every 6 months they need to approve the extension. So the dissolution of the Lok Sabha takes place during that time, the 6 months without approving the further continuation of the president rule. Then the proclamation serves until the 30 days from the first sitting of the Lok Sabha. So the after reconstitution, so the providing the Rajya Sabha has the meantime approved this continuance. And also there's a 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978 which added the provision of the president rule that can be extended beyond 1 year, that is by the 6 month a time only when the following condition or failure, that is a proclamation of the national emergency in an operation in a whole of India or whole of any part of the state. The Election Commission of India will definitely certify the general election of the Legislative Assembly of the state cannot be held on the account of certain difficulties, then at the time it will be extended. Otherwise, the duration of this national emergency will be only 1 year. Every resolution approving the proclamation of the president rule, its continuation should be passed by either house of the parliament only by a simple majority, 50% of the member present and voting itself. So the proclamation of the president rule, its continuation only by a simple majority. What is this revocation? There is a revocation procedure there. There is a revocation. The proclamation of emergency can be revoked by the president at any time by a subsequent proclamation. Such a proclamation does not require the parliamentary approval. So these are the main criteria. And also, what are the consequences of the president rule? The president can take up the function of the state government, the power vested with the governor or any other executive authority in the state. The president can declare that the power of the state legislature ought to be exercised by the parliament. The president can take all other necessary steps, including the suspension of the constitutional provision that relating to body of authority in the state. That accordingly, the consequence of the effects of the president rule, a state can be only in inactive manner. So that's the effects of president rule on state executive. First of all, when the provision occurs, the president rule imposed to the state, the president dismisses the state council of ministers headed by the chief minister. The state governor on behalf of the president carries the state administration with the help of the chief secretary of the state of the advisor appointed by the president. The president would appoint a person as a chief secretary. They would help the president to administrate. In fact, this is the reason why the proclamation under Article 356 is popularly known as the imposition of the president rule in a state. There's a effects of president rule on state legislature. First of all, the president either suspend or dissolve the state legislative assembly. The parliament passes the state legislation bills and state budget. The president can promulgate the ordinance to the state. If there is no session of the parliament, then the president will promulgate ordinance for the state. When the state legislature or dissolved or suspended, the parliament acquires a certain powers. First of all, the parliament can delegate the power to make laws for the state to the president or any other authority which is specified by him in his regard. The parliament, or in the case of delegation, the president on any other specified authority can make laws which conferring the powers and imposing duties on the center or with the other official and authority. The president can authorize that Lok Sabha is not in session, that expenditure from the consolidated fund of the state is pending sanction by the parliament. And also there is a law made by the parliament or the president or any other specified authority of the country should be operating even after a president rule. This means the period of such law remains in force is not in coterminous with the duration of the proclamation, and this law can be repealed, altered or re-enacted by the state legislature. So this is the provision. So effect of president rule on state legislature, if any law made by the parliament will maybe replaced, altered or re-enacted by state legislature after the president rule revocator. There is a president rule on state judiciary. During the proclamation of the president rule, the president can neither assume the powers of the High Court onto himself nor to suspend the provision of the Constitution that relating to the High Court. These constitutional provisions state does power, function or concern with the state High Court remains same during the president rule. These are the main effects of the state legislature. There is a misuse of the president rule. First of all, Article 356 has been is one of the most controversial and most criticized provision of the Indian Constitution since 1950. The president rule imposed on more than 125 occasions. On several occasions, the president rule has been imposed arbitrarily and also political personal reason. There's almost all the states have been brought under the president rule once or twice or more. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had hoped that there's a drastic power under Article 356 would remain a dead letter and would be used for some measure or to last resort. So the scope of the judicial review under the president rule. First of all, 38 Amendment Act of 1975, the 38 constitutional amendment that made the satisfaction of the president is invoking Article 356 and final and conclusive, which could be challenged in any court or any ground. Thus, it may be proclamation of the president rule immune from the judicial review. Under the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act in the year of 1978, that will be deducted the above provision of the 38th Constitutional Amendment Act. Thus, it provides the satisfaction of the president for the proclamation of president rule is not beyond the judicial review. It's under judicial review. So the landmark judgment given by the S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case, in this case the Supreme Court has been laid down the landmark judgment about this president rule. First of all, the proclamation imposing of president rule is subject to judicial review. That is the first provision given by the Supreme Court. That is it's under judicial review. It could be reviewed by the judiciary. The satisfaction of the president must be based on the relevant material. A proclamation based on the irrelevant or extraneous grounds can be struck down, and also the burden lies on the center to prove the relevant material exists to justify the proclamation, and also the court cannot go into the correction of the material or adequacy. That is, but it can be see whether if it is relevant or not. At the same time, if the court holds the proclamation to be unconstitutional and invalid, it has been power to restore the dismiss the state government and revive the state legislature assembly. The state legislature assembly should be dissolved only the parliament has approved the proclamation. Until such approval, the president can only suspend the assembly. It will not fully dissolve. It can be inactive only. In case of the parliament fails to approve the proclamation, the assembly would get reactivated. So it can be again reactivate and it works. And also that's a secularism is one of the basic feature of Indian Constitution. It's a state government that pursues anti-secular politics which is liable to the action under Article 356. The question of the state government is losing the confidence of the legislature assembly should be decided on the floor of the house until it is that is done. So the state council of ministers should not be unseated. And also the power under the Article 356 is an exceptional power and should be used only occasionally to meet the requirement of the special situation. This is a landmark judgment which is given by the SR Bommai versus Union of India cases. And also there is a many significance of president rule. First of all, there is ensuring the continuity of the governance. The president rule provide the constitutional mechanism to address the situation where the state government is unable to function according to the provision of Indian Constitution. This helps to maintain the continuity of the governance and prevent the breakdown in an administrative measure. And also there is a upholding the constitutional order. That is the invocation of the president rule intended to restore the constitutional order when the state government fall to either to the constitutional framework and also act as a safeguard to protect the democratic value, and it is used as a crisis management. President rule empowers the central government to intervene and take the direct control of the state administration, and also the protecting the national interest. That is a in certain situation the president rule can be used to protect the national interest, such as ensuring the unity, integrity, and also the country safeguarding the security and sovereignty. So there's a many criticism regarding this kind of president rule. First of all, there is a potential of misuse is the one of the thing. There is a usage. The board power granted under the president rule has been criticized because the ruling party of the center will be dismiss the state government controlled by the opposition party in a state government. So this is a major criticism. And also there is an undermining federalism. The imposition of the president rule is seen as a violation of the principle of federalism, and also there's a lack of clear criteria. The constitution does not provide clear objective criteria for the imposition of the president rule. That is a allegation that arbitrary and also partisan use of the provision. There is a suspension of the democratic process, a suspension of the state legislature and the concentration of power of hands on the governor during the president rule are viewed as a temporary setback for the democratic process, and also tendency towards the centralization. The repeated use of the president rule has been criticized that contributing the overall trend of centralization and also impact of the development is one of the reasons. That is the uncertainty and instability caused by the president rule that can be adversely affect the development progress of the state. So there is a many recommendation given for this criticism. First of all, there is a Panchi Commission. That is a commission are supposed to propose the localized emergency provision under Article 355 and 356, with contending that localized area, a district or part of district, be brought under the president rule instead of the whole state. So thus such emergency provision should not be the duration for more than 3 months. And Sarkaria Commission, they can given lots of recommendation. First of all, the Article 356 that could be used as a measure to last resort when all the available alternatives that is fall to prevent or rectify the breakdown of the constitutional machinery of the state. And also there is a provision that invoke that event of political crisis, internal subversion, physical breakdown or non-compliance with the constitutional directive of the center. The explanation is to be obtained from the errant state that before taking action under the Article 356, the governor should recommend the proclamation of the president rule without dissolving the legislative assembly, and also they can provide the appropriate amendment is carried out in the relevant provision of the constitution to make the remedy of the judicial review that is more meaningful. So these are the things provided by the Sarkaria Commission. And also there is a conclusion. The provision for declaring the president rule in a state is a double-edged sword. It provides the central government with the necessary authority to address the constitutional breakdown at the state level, but also carries a potential for abuse and also undermining the democratic principle. So it is a navigation evolving political dynamics. So it is a crucial part that president rule exercised judicially with a robust oversight and also strict adherence to the rule of law will definitely ensure the preservation of the country's federal structure and also the democratic fabrics. Thank you so much.